All right, guys, welcome back to the Construction Entrepreneur Podcast. Today's episode, a little bit different. It's all about the things that I've learned by sort of working and consulting with other construction businesses. Now, I think a lot of you will get a lot of benefit from this, of seeing the common ground, the typical issues that happen, the mindset, and what people are actually doing in their businesses. I'm going to share the 11 common things that I've thought about this morning of stuff that's very common that I speak to business owners about all the time, that comes up time and time again, and just different stuff, and this is for me, there's a massive polar opposite in this industry. There are some people that are absolutely killing it, doing really, really well, and on the other end of the scale, there are people that are just living hand to mouth and just surviving. And that's the beauty with this industry, you've got tradesmen at the very bottom, and don't get me wrong, there's some really bad ones. We all know them, there are a lot of them out there. Then you've got the good tradesmen that they're out there, but they're just sort of surviving. But it goes all the way up, like I say, to people doing multi-millions, doing lots of different deals, really growing a decent business. And the gap is just huge. And the main thing that's going to come down to is the education and actually getting help with the business, which is sort of what I've veered into now by just being present online and people naturally asking me for help. It's now turned into me doing some mentorship with people and consultancy with businesses to help them go through the challenges that we'll talk through and get them to the next level. And this is the thing with what I do. I don't advocate myself as a coach. I don't like the whole thing as a coach. I think that just says an image of just helping someone tie their laces up. I'm the person that helps that person in the middle ground. Someone who's up and running, got a business, and is experiencing some growing pains and some challenges and some difficulties, mainly around the finances, the structure of the business, the strategy of the business. And then leading into the marketing and the growth and getting clients. But that's where my solid, fuel comes from. Basically, is helping that middle person. I don't really have an interest in helping people start a business, and I enjoy more a business is up and running. It's got some problems. It's got some challenges. Here's what we need to fix them straight away. And knowing that, because I've just got the experience of doing that, so I can plug that in very quickly. And there's a lot of the common stuff that I work with businesses and people and just go, right, that, do this, do that, and it solves problems and the business just moves on very quickly. So the benefit of a mentorship, if you like, or a consultancy or help with business is it's just straight to the point, and it's quicker, it's easier. It saves you loads of time, and in the long run, it's a lot cheaper as well, because you've got someone who's got the expertise and the knowledge to actually move a business forward or solve a problem or get it to that next stage, depending where you want the business to get to. And it ultimately actually helps you sort of share the load with someone who's on your level, someone's on the wavelength and gets it, fully understands it. You might experience this yourself. You might speak to family, friends, maybe even other business owners, but they're in a different industry. They don't fully understand the business, the model, how it works. It's a complicated model. It's got a lot of pitfalls and downfalls, but it's got a lot of goods and upsides as well. And sometimes just having someone to actually bounce ideas off and have a voice of reason and actually give a different perspective is just worth its weight in gold. And that's what I like to do, is provide that perspective and no bullshit, solid answer to people. Do this, do that, do this. Don't fucking do that, because that will bite you on the arse. Think about this, because that will come up next. It's really good, and it's really refreshing for me to be able to do that as well. I really enjoy doing that. It's a small part of what I do day to day, but I really enjoy being able to do that and be in a position to offer that, basically. And it's something that I've always used. I'm a big fan of mentorship, consultants, experts, bringing them in. I still continue to do that today and leverage other people, which is a different episode that I've recorded previously on leverage, of just leveraging people, their skill sets, their brains and their knowledge, and plugging that into your business to get ahead. It's a fantastic vehicle and opportunity. And you think about it, as a kid, you learn from your parents. You learn how to cross the road properly from your parents. You then go to school, you learn how to do the basics, the maths, the English. And then as you grow and you build as a business, at certain levels, you bring people in to help you with that business. But big businesses do this all the time. This is not a new thing, but this middle ground, people find it weird to have someone help them with their business. And, but big businesses do it all the time. Huge corporations bring in advisors, strategic partners, people that have experienced something before when they're going into a different market. It's a very readily done thing. People do it, but we've just got the labels wrong of what it actually is. And it's just strategic help, solid consultancy, mentorship, whatever way you want to put it, of bringing someone in to give you a different view. So there's a lot of things that I've learned by doing that now with businesses myself. And obviously, look, if you don't adopt this methodology of thinking and always learning and getting people ahead of you to help you get ahead, the journey's just going to take a hell of a lot longer. It's going to be a lot more painful. You're going to make mistakes that you don't need to make mistakes on. It's much smarter to learn from other people's mistakes and not do them. You can have the expertise of someone, or you can have the wound. What would you rather have, the expertise or the wound? And I'd rather have less wounds and more expertise and actually get ahead quicker. And that's just my whole ethos and mentality of it. So it's just a smarter leverage of everything you've got going on, leverage of your time, your money, your cash, and leverage of other people and bringing that together to get ahead. So 11 things that I've really learned by working with businesses. Let's jump into them. Number one, I want to point out that this industry is full of really solid, good people. There's so many decent people out there that are just a little bit off. And I always liken it to golf. I'm quite into my golf. You can do a swing, you can do it absolutely perfectly, but if you're 1 or 2 millimeters off, that ball's going to veer off to the left, to the right, and it's a mile away from the target. And this is what I find with the industry. There's so many solid people in it, but they're just a little bit way off, and they just need a little bit of a course correction, a little bit of problem solving, a little bit of just hold on, do it this way, and that finesse, and the business goes in a different place, and it all just starts falling into place. And it's just, I really wanted to highlight there's some really good, decent people in this industry. Yes, there is a lot of bad. Trust me, there is a lot of knobheads in this industry. It's just by the virtue of what it is. There is a lot of really uneducated people. Which is actually point number 2 on my list here, is that there's a massive education gap. We're not taught at school how to run a business, how to sell properly, how to market properly, how to account in the business. And you need to know all this stuff. You've got to put your head on as a really solid business owner. You want to be really commercially aware. You want to be able to sell, you want to be able to market the business, you want to be able to push and develop a team, you want to be able to do a whole host of things that are going to require skill sets that you probably don't know. You just don't have the education or the training to be able to do that. And some people, they do it purely just by learning as you go, but it's fucking painful doing it that way. You want to get really trained and be really efficient and raise the education game, and everyone does this in the sense of like what you do for site. You go to college, you learn your trade. You have to do certain things like CSCS cards, you have to do certain site managers trainings, you have to have, tower trainings, you have to have ladder safety trainings, you have to have all sorts of trainings for stuff like that. But the education space in terms of, how are you actually running your business? What are you actually doing? How educated are you actually running a business and doing the right things? And I've only learned it from people older than me. I've always had the drive, the want, the desire, and the grit and the balls to go out and do stuff. But it's only when you start learning from other people and really improving your education. It's why I read a lot of books. You see books behind me. I read a lot of books. I probably read 1 book a week, every week without fail. More than learning and looking to develop and get more. And just become a better businessman and a better business person all the time. Doesn't matter what level you get to. It's that attitude of self-improvement all the time. And that's what is the biggest setback for people. It's just a lack of education, a lack of awareness. And obviously I started just putting out reels on Instagram. It's a 60-second reel, it's a 90-second reel. You can only cram so much in. Some people only get certain bits from it and question how do you do that, how do you do it fully, which is why I then started the podcast to have a bit more an in-depth bit of training and learning and knowledge, because that's really what you listen to a podcast for, is because you want to learn something. You want to get a trick or get a hint or a tip or something from a podcast. That's why a certain character listens to a podcast or watches it on YouTube that we're on as well. But education is a massive root cause of just not knowing, and your biggest cost is your ignorance and not knowing. You just don't know what you don't know. So education is something that's massively got to shift, and that's something that I'm really pushing with the podcast and the page, like I say, of being someone at the front of going, right, hold on guys, let's just step back a minute, forget about the physicalities and the doing on site. Let's just think about your education as a business person and what you're actually fucking doing, because you are taking on the risk. And this is something that people don't fully get, is that when you become a company director and you're small, you just view it as I've got a company. But as you get bigger, you do millions. A lot of responsibility comes with that. You've got a lot of financial responsibility. If the jobs are slightly off by a couple of percentage points, it's a lot of money at the end of the year. If things go wrong on jobs on sites, it might have a commercial value of 300 grand, 500 grand job. That goes wrong, someone doesn't pay, you're majorly fucked. You've got to really be switched on to the whole business side and that whole commercial intellect. So it's all in that banner of education. Number 3 is that people commonly sit with problems, and it's night and day. Because I'll give you an example. I've got a couple of businesses that I work with, and the owners are like early 20s, and they're flying already because of what we've plugged in and what we've changed. They're killing it. And then you've got some people that are 35, nearly 40, and they've done something a particular way for 20 years and just sat with a problem, just sat with it and not done anything about it, and not thought, right, maybe I need to change something here because I've had the same fucking problem for 10, 20 years, and it's just sad because it's a lot of time you're never going to get back. And sitting with problems is the disease of business. Like, once you reach a problem, once you identify a problem in a business, you've got to go, right, what's the solution? And come up with at least 3 solutions and go, right, well, we've got this problem. Like if you've got a recruitment problem, for example, go, right, how are we going to solve that problem? Instead of moaning about it, instead of complaining how difficult it is, because it is difficult, I get it, I fully get it. But what's the solution? What are you going to do as a business owner with a responsibility on your shoulders as a business? How do you solve that recruitment problem? Is it you've got to meet more people, you've got to spend more of your time actually looking for people? Because is it as easy as just putting a post out on social media going, I'm looking for staff, and no one replies and you moan about it? No, you have to roll your sleeves up and do more about it. So you've got to set a solid plan and not just sitting with problems and doing the bare minimum to solve those problems, tackling those problems and just focusing on one problem at a time. Because I guarantee whatever stage you're at in business, you will be having a problem right now. You will be going through one particular problem and you need to just lock on to that problem, go, right, I'm not fucking touching anything else until I solve that specific problem. Here's 3 different ways of solving that problem. So if it is recruitment, like on the example I gave, it's right, I am going to have to speak to recruitment agencies or recruitment people and go and meet them, have a coffee with them and explain what I want. I'm going to have to set up various job posts on all the job boards, Indeed, LinkedIn, Monster, whatever ones there are. I'm going to have to get on Facebook groups, I'm going to have to network with people, I'm going to have to phone every single person I've got in my phone and ask them, do you know anyone? How much effort you're actually putting into solving that problem. You've got to come up with 3 solid plans of actions and pick the best one. The lowest hanging fruit is going to be easiest, cheapest, quickest to do first, and then go from there. But you can't just sit with problems. Sitting with problems is just, they get worse. There's an expression of eat a frog for breakfast. The biggest problem you've got right now, that's the problem you need to work on first and really challenge and just eat and swallow it. And you know what it's like, once you tackle a problem, and some problems are uncomfortable. You might have a problem, you need to get rid of a member of staff. It's uncomfortable, it's not nice to have to do that. But the smartest obvious thing is go and speak to someone who's an HR expert, a HR consultant, ask them how do you do it, and do it properly. Don't try and sit with a problem on yourself and try and figure it out on your own. Go and get that HR person and go, right, how do I get this person out of the business to the least expense, the easiest way, and the nicest way of doing that as well, because ultimately you're getting rid of someone in that example. That's impacting someone's livelihood, and they got to go home to their family ultimately and explain they've just lost their job or they've been sacked. So there's a way of doing it, but just sitting with problems is just an absolute waste of time. Number 4, everyone typically who's built a decent level of business, they're very good at delivery, they're very good at the standard, the products and the handover to the client. The product looks amazing, the service looks great, you've done a great job, the quality is there. This is what the good people in the industry do. That's their forte of going, right, that's excellent. And if something's not quite right, they rectify it before handing it back to a client. That's the marks of a good business person in the construction industry. Because if a client looks at your product and goes, oh, that's chipped, that's quite off, that's not straight, that's not perfect, you are fucked as a business. Like, you have to deliver an amazing service. It's got to be clean, it's got to be tidy, your lads have got to be professional, you've got to communicate well with your clients, with your staff. The whole package has got to be very good. And I find that the good business owners, they're good at that part, but they're just terrible at the business side, the finances, and actually just, right, what do we do next? What do we do with the money? What do we do from a margin perspective? What do we do from a commercial perspective? What work should we be going after? What should we be stepping away from? And the business side and being a bit more switched on with that's very, very common. Like, it is massively common. And I'll give you guys an overview that I've had these conversations with people that are doing a few $100,000 in revenue, people doing over £5 million in revenue, and the business side, the commercial side, the finances of the business are slipping. And people tend to view it, this is very, very common, as, well, we're okay because we're making money, which is just not the attitude to have, because you just don't know where your plugs and your holes are. You do not look at business just as, well, we're okay overall. You need to understand if something's not quite working in a business, you need to rectify that and solve that. You can't let mistakes or problems be covered up because you're making a profit as an overall. That's a bad way of looking at business, and because whilst it might be okay now, and yes, you might be making money now, but what if that problem escalates and gets worse and worse and worse and ends up costing you a lot of money, or even puts the business under because you've just taken your eye off the ball? You've got to be on it on everything, and this is just the gaps in business that I see a lot of the time. Honestly, yeah, like I say, people doing multi-millions are facing these problems as well. It's very real. I speak to business owners every single week. I get messages daily. And I ask people very specific questions, go, where you're at, what sort of revenue you're doing, and if you've messaged me before, you'll know that's what I typically say. I'm like, right, where are you at, what sort of revenue you're at, because I know what problems you're going to be experiencing based on what revenue you're at. And then we start digging into the business side, the financial side, and it's like, I don't know, maybe, about this, roughly, words like this, and you just don't know. You don't know the actuals of the business, and that's the massive gap. Very common, but it's an issue that's sitting there. It's a storm brewing, and there is a saying, I think I've said this saying before on the podcast before, is that you see who's been swimming naked when the tide comes out, which basically means, things might be okay when the water level's high, but when the water level goes and problems happen, maybe it's going to be a more extreme recession, or maybe it's going to be a job that goes wrong, or something happens, then you see really who is prepared and who really knows their business and is understanding of it all, and it's just something I want you guys to think about, is that you've got to be really good at business. If you own a business, you've taken on the liability and the responsibility of being a director and a shareholder of a company. You need to act like one and be like one, and it's going to give you so much more confidence to do more business and build a bigger business as you go when you get that confidence. Number 5, it's very common that the business gets away from people. And what I mean by that is sometimes business gets a bit bigger than what you actually intended. You go through this transition of a tradesman, a worker, or a subcontractor into a businessman, and you can actually get a bit lost. You can get a bit lost in your role, and this happens very frequently because once you've got subcontractors that are out there doing work, maybe you've got a team in the office, you've got a contracts manager or a project manager, an admin person, or a counselor, you can get a bit lost because you haven't actually got a job anymore, and you've got to rebalance and go, right, what is your job anymore? Because the jobs are taken after themselves, the lads are doing what they need to be doing, the accounts are doing what they need to be doing, the admin's all sorted. There's not much going on for you, and you've got to start thinking, right, what are you going to do next as a business? And that's when you need to turn your hat on to, right, you are the developer of the business, and you are the person looking ahead of where the business is going to go next. And you've got to refine yourself again, and this is something that I've done a lot with people, is actually going, right, what do you actually want? What's the long-term goals, and where do you actually want to get to? Because you've got to switch your head on to that as a business owner, of going, right, now you've got some more leverage in the business, you've got staff in the business, and you've become a bit more free with your time. You've got to fill your time back up again with stuff that's going to move you forward to where you want to get to, because you can just get lost and sit there willy-nilly, and I've got clients in this position now where they're driving around in the morning checking on the jobs, and by 11 o'clock they're at home because everything's running. The business is running solid. They're popping in the office, they're checking in on things, it's done, and 1 o'clock they're floating around, they're free, they haven't got much going on, which you really enjoy it when you get to that point. But as a business owner, you want to be growing the business and moving it forward, so you've got to rebalance again and actually get, right, where are we going next as the next opportunities, and what strategic moves you're going to make as a business owner next to get you to where you want to get to. And that just all comes down to goal setting, really, of what you want from the business, where you want to get to, and all sorts of stuff like that, which is what I work with people on. Number 6 is not knowing what to do next. The fear of not knowing, and just working out, right, what do you do next? It is a genuine problem that happens a lot, specifically when I was just talking then about people getting a bit lost. It's like, what do you do next? What is the next thing? And equally, sometimes you can surpass your expectations of the business, and you reached a certain level that you thought was the ultimate maybe, and now you're like, well, what do you do next? It's very common. It's a very, very common thing of, like, almost a little bit of boredom can creep in, and it's just that whole thing of not knowing and what to do next is a massive, massive thing. So some of you might be listening to this and you might be in that stage as well, like, well, what is next? It's hugely common. It happens a hell of a lot, and sometimes you have to just step out of the business and really decide what type of business owner and what type of businessman you want to be, because there's all different levels. Not everyone's got massive aspirations to build a massive company. Not everyone's got aspirations to build a massive empire. Some people are very, very happy. You get to a level, you've got a few guys working for you, you've got a small team, you're taking 200 grand out of that business, and that's you're cool, and you're totally cool with that. And I've got all the respect and all the admiration of the world for that, because it's a nice place to be. And it's just about knowing what you want to do and what you want for yourself. And if you really got to understand that, because sometimes you can just get paralysed by your own self and thinking, well, maybe I should be doing a bit of this, maybe I should be doing a bit of that, and you've got to just zone into like, what the fuck do you actually want, to then determine what to do next. Because someone without a goal, you just sort of plod along. If you haven't got targets for the business, if you haven't got financial targets, if you haven't got a plan, you haven't got a place you want to get to, you haven't got certain clientele you want to win, or a direction you want the business to go into, you can just get stagnated and bored and just in this bit of no man's land. And that's something that's just not, it's not good, because you don't thrive off that. And you'll probably find yourself, when you're chasing stuff, you thrive more, because you wake up, you get out of energy, because you're hunting a specific plan or goal to go to. And that's what I always like to have for myself as well, as a specific place, direction, target you want to get to, because that's what, it just buzzes you up throughout the day and just keeps you going. You don't want to be lost. Number 7 is doubt and fear. Very, very common, and this is something, it's not spoke about a lot. It's an industry full of men, construction industry. We don't like to admit that we've got doubts. We don't like to admit that there's fears around doing stuff, but it's very real. There is a lot of doubt that can creep in. There is a lot of fear that can creep in, especially when you are doing some of this stuff that we're talking about of the unknown. You've never done it before. Maybe you've never hired someone before. Maybe you've never fired someone before. Maybe you've never taken on a job that's as big as what you're looking at doing at the minute. Maybe you're looking at taking on a bigger premises. Maybe you're looking at taking on more overhead. Maybe you're looking at doing a new marketing campaign. There's always going to be doubt and fear around that. There is always going to be that. It's very, very real. You're just going to have it. And in my experience, it's something you just learn to live with. Like, I get doubt and fear around certain stuff as well. There's certain things you go, fuck, can I do that? Can I pull that off? And then you just remember what you have done previously, and you remind yourself, yeah, I can, because I did this and this and this, and you've got confidence, you've got the proof that you've done it yourself, and you just got to sort of master that doubt and fear. But I wanted to list that in, is that it's very common. Like, everyone's got it all the time, but certain people let doubt and fear paralyze them, and they stop, and other people use it as fuel. And I've always got that mentality of, yes, you experience a bit of doubt and fear, but jump anyway. If there's a cliff there and it's like you've got to jump off, I'll always jump. And it's having that mentality as a business owner. Sometimes you've got to make jumps into the unknown, that you don't know what's going to happen. You might jump in the water, it might be shallower than what you thought, it might be deeper than what you thought, there might be something in there. But you've got to have that mentality as a solid business person and owner, of not letting doubt and fear stop you. Because where this becomes a problem is when you've got staff and you're not making decisions because doubt and fear is holding you back. That's not great leadership for a team. People see that, and that vibe is given off to your staff, that you're not a decision maker, you're not decisive, you don't make proactive decisions. Doubt and fear will cripple businesses, because it just doesn't boost and provide good morale and culture in the business, because you're just not making decisions that moves the business forward, or making the tough decisions that everyone knows in the business that it needs to happen, but you're not making that decision because you're worried about the outcome, maybe, which is always going to come down to people ultimately, or having difficult conversations in the business. But doubt and fear really cripples people, so you really don't want to let that be the blocker for you. Number 8 is that what I found is once people do know the business side, they do know the financials of the business, they know their pricing work properly, they know they're tracking costs properly, they're doing a profit and loss on the business, it gives immense confidence, and just like, fuck, we know what we're doing. Like, you just can't put a finger on that. When you just know that, and you know what you're doing, and and you can see your bank account increasing, you can see the cash flow increasing, you're on top of the money, everything's buttoned up from an accounting point of view, you're just on it. When you're just super on it, things just happen, things just go off, and it's really nice now that I've got people that have come in. I won't mention their names because it's private information, but I've got companies doing hundreds of thousands of pounds extra net profit at the bottom, because they've just mastered this and just done and implemented what I've put in and spoke to them about and shown them, basically. I've got companies now where one guy is particularly going through an operational procedure of the business, he's actually doing specific job roles, an operation manual for the business, and just deleveraging himself and repetitive tasks, and just getting the business to a point where he's basically out of the business because it's just running for him, and everyone knows what they've got to do because it's just processed and systemized. And obviously, if you're a small business, you don't need to worry about shit like that. But once you get bigger, that's the stuff you want, because you want to just be hands off as the owner and just getting other people to all just run like clockwork, and that clockwork only happens if all the cogs are aligned. You take one cog out, nothing happens. The time doesn't change. Things don't go round. So it's really nice he's doing that. There's other guys that have reached a point of going through a year or so of struggling with labour and teams taking up and stepping up to the plate of delivering jobs and taking ownership and responsibility for them. And now he's gone through that, and now he's in a point of he's actually just driving around in his truck, checking in, managing jobs, invoicing the jobs, going to see customers. And he's reached that next level, and it's just, once you get a firm grasp on your business and you just know what you're doing with it, and you've just solved the problems that you're going through, you just get this after period of things just slot into place. And you can't put a word on it, you can't put a time on it, there is no guarantees. Sometimes it takes longer to solve certain problems, other times it takes a lot smaller time to solve those problems and get to the next level. The bigger you are, the more leverage you've got, the more brain power you've got within that, the easier and quicker it is. But once you just get informed and once you know what you're doing, it just slots in and goes in nice and quick, and before you know it, the business is in a completely different direction. And another guy, he was on the tools when he started. I don't really typically work with people that are on the tools as such. He's transitioned from that to having lads working for him, and I've done a deal that I can't talk about publicly, but he's now wholesaling and supplying in his industry and what he's doing, and his life has completely changed in a year's time frame, that is, of working with me. So it's been really good to do that and just see. But my point is, once you get a bit of expertise and you get some help, the sky's the limit. You can just take it wherever you want to do once you know, and once you get good at just running a decent solid business and you get informed, you get help. Next one, number 9. It is easy to win when you know what you're doing, because you know the game, you understand the rules, you get it, you understand, and things just click in once you just know what you're doing. And it's just a lot easier to win when you just understand how this business works. You understand how clients buy, the tendering process, when you understand competitiveness in pricing, and actually a lot of the times it's not all about price, it's about your brand, it's about your delivery, it's about your communication as an owner, it's about the service that you provide as a business. And once you understand how to look after staff properly, how to reward staff properly, how to build a team in an office, and how to just run the business, it's just a lot easier to win. Because if you don't know that, it's fucking really difficult. It's really hard, and this industry will serve you your arse on a plate when you don't know what you're doing. It will bite you really on the bum. Number 10, accountability. Accountability is a really good thing, and I struggle with that a little bit, because I'm not someone that, I don't require accountability, because I'm my own worst enemy. Like, I will pick myself apart if I've not hit a target, I've not hit a goal, if I've done something wrong. Having said that, it is good to check in with other people. Like, I will regularly check in with my own accountant, other smart people I know, other business owners, and mentors that I've got of my own, and they will sense check and call me out on stuff, and actually reality check and question stuff, and just have that level of accountability, and just checking in with someone that's going to hold you accountable and question the way you're doing something is massively beneficial. And this is what's been a really big part of a lot of businesses that I work with, is actually just having someone on their case a little bit, going, what happened with that job? Did you do that? Did you do this? What profit did that make? What's the figures for this month? What have you invoiced? A little bit of pressure is a really good thing, and a lot of people like this. And you'll see this is the reason why people get personal trainers. They'll get a personal trainer because it's someone that's there waiting for them at the gym, whereas going there on your own, you can fob it off, you can hit snooze, you can not go, because no one's going to know about it. But if you've got someone there to meet you, puts a little bit of pressure on accountability, and I think accountability is a really solid thing. And as a business owner, you've actually got no accountability on you. You've got accountability to your staff to pay them. That's one sense of accountability. You've got an accountability to your clients to deliver the jobs, because you've got to deliver the jobs, you've got to deliver them on time, on budget, and to have them happy. But there's no sense of accountability of the business side, and actually having someone coming in and going, right, where are we at? And maybe that's, sometimes you have a partner in a business, sometimes you have other higher level teams like directors in the business. Having some sort of level of accountability is a really good thing. Keeps you on a track, and it keeps you on an even keel, and it just pushes you to do a lot more, which is what you want. It's good. It's good competitive spirit. And lastly, number 11, most people in this industry are not naturally good salespeople. They're not naturally like marketers, front men of the business. Naturally a person that will go and introduce themselves to people and start conversations, because like 9 times out of 10 people in this industry have started from on site. yes, having a good bit of banter on site, but it's very different going into a room of people or maybe standing up in front of people and conveying your message and your brand and actually selling yourself and marketing your business and opening new doors and building new relationships. And that's something that you have to develop as a business owner, because someone's got to do that role in a business. The bigger it gets, someone's got to be the face of it. Someone's got to be out there selling it and growing the business. Someone's got to be the man and the salesman. And construction's an industry that's not heavy sales. It's not reliant on sell. Ultimately, it's going to come down to a lot of word of mouth referral, doing a good job, people phoning you because they want to use you as a business. So in that sense, you're not doing a hard sell. You're not trying to sell something like a sleazy car showroom, something like that. But there is an element of you still got to sell your brand. You still got to be able to talk really well about your business. You still got to really convey the value and the message of what you provide and how your business works. You've got to be a great communicator, and people are not naturally gifted at that and on that, and they're not thinking about it from a sales perspective. When you're going to look at jobs, you want to be looking at them with a salesman's mind on that you want to win that job. Not slating other people, not explaining why you're the best, not just talking the wrong language to your customers. A really good salesperson and naturalness is actually listening to your customers, asking them the right questions, you speaking less, and being a face that people want to work with, because that likability factor is just there. Ultimately people buy from people they like, they know, and they trust. So if you're building your whole brand around that, you're marketing really well, you're putting your face to your brand and your name, because you're basically then selling yourself and your brand. It's a lot easier to win work and contracts because people want to do business with you over someone else who isn't doing that and being that natural sort of salesman. And that's the biggest gap, because at the end of the day, businesses are all built on sales. Even in the construction industry, you have to sell at some point. You've got to sell to win work. You are in that mode, and some people don't realise that, and I think that's why it's really important for me to list out as last point. Never forget that you are a salesman. You are a salesman, not just for your clients. You are a salesman for people to come and work for you. You're a salesman for subcontractors to come to work for you. And all day long you are selling, or someone is selling you. And that is the realities of sales in this world. So that's the last point, guys. That's 11 there. I hope that's been useful. If you've liked this podcast and you've picked up some really good stuff from it and stuff that resonates with you, please do share it on your socials. Tag me in it. It's at Dean Barton Real on Instagram. Just helps get the word out and more people listen to it. That's all I ask for basically doing this podcast. And that's it, guys. I'll see you on the next one.